Welcome to the Gator Amateur Radio Club and to the Gator Nation Earth Station. We're going to do just a little introduction to W4DFU, the Gator Nation Earth Station, and just the equipment about what you do when you come in. Obviously, you've already had a key to the door because the door is open. You've already had the combination of the lock that gets you into the enclosure for the radio station. First thing to do is make sure that you always sign in. On this one board, the date, the name, your call sign, the sign in here, you can use Eastern Standard or Eastern Daylight Time. You don't have to use Universal Time. It's one of those few times in a radio station you can get by with that. Once you sign in, come on in, assuming that you're just here to operate the Gator Nation station. Usually the computer is already on the software for the station, at least the desktop for this particular station. There is a KVM switch somewhere back there, so it's possible it may be on a different one. I think it's position 4 of the KVM switch. Hidden somewhere back there, you can find it if you look for it. And as long as it's on 4, the screen will be there. It may be asleep. Just touch the mouse, bring it back up. This one's usually left on most of the time. This is the particular computer for the Gator Nation Earth Station, this Dell. The password for signing on for the username is right here if you need to. But the important thing that we really want to talk to today is what do you do when you come in and you want to operate satellites here. Just say you're coming in doing basic voice satellites for pleasure and for fun, for learning about using the station. You want to come on over to the antenna panel first before you do anything with the radio. Make sure you connect the antennas that control the radios. What I like to do when I'm here is I like to operate 2 different radios. One radio, the antenna for it, is called the Yaesu FT1802, and I'd like to have our repeater on at the time so I can talk to people on the repeater and also give you a chance to operate with friends that might be elsewhere, and you can tell them what you're hearing. Or say, for example, I was at home. You can talk about it and get support. So hook that one antenna up. Everything on this side's grounded. Everything on this side's active. The satellite radio is the ICOM 910. The ICOM 910 has a 2 meter and a 70 centimeter. It's color coded, and when we ground these, we just move them over the panel. So the one that's blue on the bottom here is 70 centimeters. So you want to go ahead and push in the PL259, and when you get that connector in, you want to screw it in securely. And the same thing for the 2 meter. Which again, you can see that they're color-coded. These particular antennas have a red and a blue stripe on them, and so do the radio connectors. Once you've got your antennas connected, you should be fine, because you never want to transmit without an antenna. You're going to ruin your transmitter. Then you need to turn on the power supply. We're going to go in this order so that you know the correct order to run the software. Put on the power supply to the radio. The second thing that you do is put on the computer controller, and you want to go in this order. Turn on the computer controller that allows the rotor to talk to the computer. Then go ahead and flip the power on. It's going to be set to wherever it's already set from the last time it was used. Once you do that, you want to turn on the radio, the power switch on the radio, the ICOM 910. You may need to hold that down for just a moment or 2. Once you've done that, you have everything you need to do voice communications. There's extra steps for digital data communications. Then you can go to your screen and find the SAT PC32 software. And what you'll do is when we start that up, give it a second to load. It's loading the server information for the rotor. And then there you go. It's going to come up with different choices of satellites. That's what this A, B, C, D, E, F, G is. And I'll show you how to search for those. But it will also show you on the screen where different satellites are. Here's AO51. This particular satellite right now is over Europe. But obviously you want to operate the satellites when they're in range of here, and it tells you when you're going to have an acquisition of signal right here. And it tells you what the maximum elevation is going to be. Sometimes it will tell you the next hours. There's a little button up here on the screen called count, and what it does is it toggles. So that particular one, that time we were looking at, was not the acquisition of signal. It was how many hours it was going to be till acquisition of signal. When the count shows 2, it shows you the next acquisition of signal and the next loss of signal. So that's only a 5-minute pass of 1 degree elevation, not enough communications. But if I go back and click it on so it has count, that's a countdown for 6 hours until the next satellite pass of that particular station. And if you look at the downlink and the uplink frequencies, and then you look down at the transceiver, the radio, you'll see that this is cat control, and it's cat controlling the actual radio down here. And that matches up positively what it has on the screen. It's all automatic control, and that's what this satellite function is. This is all done automatically. If you wanted to override it and go manual, what you do is you'd come up to the software and you would click off the C for cat control. That's what toggles it on and off for cat control. I'm going to toggle it back on. Same thing for rotor. If you want to do the rotor yourself, you could hit R. If you ever want to see the rotor is working properly, the solenoids are going to kick in, just click on the rotor function and hit park. And you can see by this one that when it's in park, it's at 20 and 300 degrees. So if I click on park, I just heard them click in. And the rotor up here is actually moving. It just moved to 20 degrees. And now it's at 20 and 300. That's where it's set for. I'm going to go back to the park setting. And actually, we may have to stop the software to change the park setting. But if I would go to about halfway, 180 or 200 is fine. It's close enough. And save it. And then continue. Let's see if we come back and we have to actually reboot the software. Now I'm going to go ahead and park, and let's see if the rotor moves to that position. And you can see the elevation going down. So we're getting it just a little bit center on the east-west, north-south boundaries. The rotor is going to have to turn to track whatever satellite comes through. So that's pretty much how to operate the basics. To know what satellites are passing by on the software, we have a link on our screen here called WinAOS. And with WinAOS, you open up that software, you can pick which satellites you want to track. This particular case, I have SO50, AO51, and AO27. And I hit OK, and I can, this is today's date, in European format, February 4th. The current time right now is 03:23, and that's a universal coordinated time, so that's 10:23 local time. And it's going to show me for a day. These are all the passes of those 3 satellites. So I don't have any passes till later on at 0500 in a few hours. And those passes, it shows me the elevation. And when you're looking at these satellites, you want to pick a nice elevation pass. For example, say AO51. AO51 tomorrow morning at 08:27, which is probably too early in the morning to come over here. It's only a 3 o'clock pass. I mean, 1200 hours is 7 o'clock in the morning, so this pass is 5 in the morning, and this one's about 7 in the morning. And then there's another pass in the afternoon at 2:30, and another pass at about 4:10. So these you want to check these out at home before you come on over. But this is a 77-degree pass. It's a beautiful pass. There's a 50-degree pass. You only get 4 usable passes approximately. 9 degrees wouldn't be all that much. AO27 is another satellite. And you have a 79-degree pass. That's in the middle of the night. This one's tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, and I say that because it's 1843. And noon is 1700 hours currently. And it changes with Eastern Daylight, Eastern Standard Time. So it can be an hour different. But the one thing I'll warn you about AO27, the satellite's only turned on for 6 minutes during each pass. So when it first acquires Florida, if it's coming from south to north, the satellite won't be turned on until it gets over about the middle of the country. Now when you go to leave, and you've used this, you want to do everything in reverse order. So you want to close the software first. Then you want to go ahead and shut off the radio. Then you want to go ahead and shut off the rotor. Shut off the computer controller. Shut off the power supply. And you do all this as to not confuse the COM ports on the computer, or you'll have to reboot. And then the last thing you would do, and it's very important, go ahead and ground the antennas, because what if a thunderstorm came over and you weren't here? The radio wouldn't last very long. We're hundreds of feet up in the air. We've already lost one of these radios to lightning. Of course, you can make it more secure than I'm doing. But before you leave the room, you do that, make sure that all of the equipment, I'd leave the computer on, especially if you have a lot of satellite use. And then on the reverse sign out on the door and enjoy the station. There'll be other tutorials that talk about how to make satellite contacts. in terms of our equipment, the Gator Nation Earth Station. That's a good summary, and we'll get you started. Enjoy.